World War II, a time of relentless horror and human suffering, left countless unanswered questions in its wake. Among them, one of the most haunting mysteries is the fate of female Soviet prisoners of war in Nazi Germany. Over 5 million Soviet soldiers were captured, yet among these, thousands, especially women, vanished into oblivion. Their disappearance lingers as an unsettling specter, cloaked in secrecy and silence, as if history itself recoils from the truth. The Nazi regime's treatment of Soviet POWs was merciless, a deliberate attempt to erase their humanity. Branded as unworthy of basic rights, these prisoners were herded into camps like Ravensbrück and Stalag 7A, places that became epicenters of death and despair. Over 3 million Soviet POWs succumbed to starvation, disease, and outright execution. But for Soviet women, the nurses, radio operators, and combatants, their disappearances took on an even darker hue. For these women, survival itself was an act of defiance. Yet many vanished without a trace, swallowed by the chaos of war and the cruelty of their captors. Their absence is more than a void. It is a black hole of unanswered questions, pulling at the edges of what we know. The disappearance of Soviet military women is a mystery steeped in darkness, their fates wrapped in layers of ominous possibilities. Unlike their male counterparts, whose deaths often left grim evidence, these women slipped through the cracks of recorded history, leaving only fragments and speculation in their wake. What could have happened to them? Nazi ideology viewed Soviet women soldiers with a mixture of hatred and fear. They were seen not just as enemies, but as violators of traditional gender roles and as symbols of Bolshevik defiance. This ideological disdain led to particularly cruel treatment. Captured women were stripped of their humanity, often paraded before other prisoners as examples of what would happen to those who resisted. Executions were carried out with chilling precision and grotesque brutality. Many women were shot en masse, their bodies dumped into hastily dug pits. Others endured even more horrific deaths, such as being burned alive or subjected to torture so severe that death became a grim relief. These executions were not just acts of war, but spectacles of terror designed to break the spirit of those who bore witness. The Nazis' goal was clear: erase not just the women's lives, but their very essence, leaving behind no trace of their bravery or resistance. Assimilated into oblivion. Could some of these women have escaped captivity, only to vanish into civilian life under assumed identities? If so, the cost of such survival would have been unimaginable, severing all ties to family, comrades, and their homeland. This theory evokes a chilling loneliness, as if these women became living ghosts, haunting a world that no longer recognized them. Did they walk among us? Their past buried so deeply that even they forgot who they once were. Forced into the abyss. Some were sent to labor camps, their identities stripped away, their voices silenced forever. These camps, shrouded in brutality, became the final destinations for many, where the women toiled in inhuman conditions until their strength was gone. Others may have been trafficked, forced into a shadowy underworld where even their existence became a secret, hidden behind layers of fear and coercion. The idea of being consumed by such an abyss leaves a chilling emptiness. Subjects of sinister experiments. Whispers from camps like Ravensbrück hint at unspeakable horrors. Nazi doctors, driven by a perverse obsession with racial purity and military superiority, turned these women into unwilling subjects of their grotesque experiments. Women were injected with diseases, mutilated under the guise of surgery, or exposed to lethal conditions to test human endurance. Their pain and suffering were meticulously recorded, yet their names were deliberately erased from the records. Survivors of these experiments were rare, and even they carried the physical and emotional scars of their torment for the rest of their lives. The destruction of Nazi documents only deepens the mystery, leaving us to wonder how many women's lives were consumed in these heinous pursuits. Did these experiments serve a dark purpose beyond the war, a secret so vile that even the victors dared not expose it? The silence surrounding these women's fates is as deafening as it is haunting. Vanished in transit. Some women may have perished during transport between camps, their deaths unrecorded, their bodies discarded along the way. The logistics of war were chaotic, and the frailty of the human cargo was often ignored. Did they vanish between the cracks of the Nazi war machine, their fates lost in the noise of conflict? The emptiness of this theory, women disappearing into the ether of unmarked roads and forgotten railways, echoes with a bleak and unsettling finality. Erased by the Soviets. Upon the war's end, those who survived captivity faced another threat, their own government. Branded as traitors for having been captured, many Soviet POWs were sent to the Gulag or executed upon their return. Life in the Gulags was a descent into hell. Prisoners endured forced labor in freezing temperatures, inadequate food rations, and rampant disease. For the women, the torment was even more acute. They were often singled out for sexual violence, an atrocity compounded by the dehumanizing conditions of the camps. Beatings, public humiliations, and the relentless grind of back-breaking labor turned each day into a living nightmare. Women watched as their comrades succumbed to starvation or froze to death, their bodies left to rot in plain view. The Gulag system was not just a place of punishment. It was a mechanism of erasure, designed to break both body and spirit. Those who survived did so with scars, physical and emotional, that bore silent witness to their ordeal. Were these women's stories deliberately erased, their survival deemed too inconvenient for Soviet propaganda? The silence surrounding their fates feels deliberate, as if history itself conspired to keep them hidden. Echoes of the lost. The fate of these women is a haunting silence, a wound in history that refuses to heal. Their disappearance is not just a question of what happened, but a grim reminder of how easily lives can be erased. Even now, the search for answers is fraught with difficulty. Excavations uncover bones, but few names. Survivors share fragments, but the full story remains out of reach. Each piece of evidence, a mass grave, a forgotten document, brings us closer to the truth, yet the larger picture remains elusive. The passage of time only deepens the mystery, turning the lost women of the Soviet military into phantoms of the past. A legacy of shadows. The disappearance of these women is not just a tragedy, it is a call to remember. Their silence speaks volumes, a testament to the horrors of war and the fragility of human memory. Their fate may never be fully known, but their stories demand to be heard. As we search for answers, we honor their courage and their sacrifice. In seeking the truth, we shine a light into the darkest corners of history, refusing to let these women and their stories fade into the abyss. Their mystery endures, a solemn reminder of the countless lives lost to war's relentless cruelty.